I'm Maggie Wadey, and my poem is called Like Swallows. They came like swallows, the young ones, 18 that year, beautiful, quarrelsome, absurd, powered by desires as yet unspoken, and everything still to play for, even in their own doom-heavy, tech-laden, anxious times. They came like swallows, the young ones, choosing to win, to lose, to speak out, or some to keep to the narrow path of personal ambition, of love or study, holding faith that their future must surely deliver something at least of pleasure, treasure, a measure of the plenty lavished on their parents' generation. They came like swallows, the young ones, out of the traces and into the race, torn as they were between fight or flight, high-hearted even in this damaged place that we, like careless thugs, have gifted them. They came like swallows, the young ones, flying into the mockery of this year's spring.
Thank you, Maggie. That was lovely. Kerry, Derbyshire.
In the air. What if this should change? The crabapple in blossom, leaning on a hawthorn like an old friend. The brown and white cows cudding the lush meadow beyond the wall. The rumble of John's tractor checking ewes and lambs. Tyres weaving morning's dew. The hedge of May like brides in wedding gowns beneath a lucky blue sky. What if this should change? These thistles pushing through turf, keen as fans at a football match. My dog, nose to ground, tracing every drop of last night's musk. The resident owl who never seems to sleep, calling from the gill where the plough always stops, between two sycamores, and the smell of weather stays sharp. What if this should change? The first swallows leaping air at finding last year's nests in the barn. Orange tips giddying bluebells by the river, playing last night's rain. The cheeky pair of squirrels darting up the trunk of the pine. The cocky pheasant parading his apple orchard. What if this should change? Bracken brushing green over the fell, where my children found bleached skulls and the distant estuary gleams like a star. Here, where winter follows footprints through gorse, where deer and fox graze unafraid. What if I never hear their bark again?
Lovely.
Hello, I'm Anne Rabbit, and I'm going to read Bookshelf Ballad. Breaking news, offshore, the plague, quarantine, border crossing complications, a death in the family. This changes everything. Fatigue, depression, nausea, days without end. The worst case scenario, the death of the family. Afterwards, the fall. New lives, new landscapes, guns, germs and steel, all the birds singing. Our common future, 100 years of solitude. Skippy dies, out of sight. A crime in the neighborhood, willful disregard. We are all completely beside ourselves. What do you care what other people think? Someone like you, born to win, taking control. For your own good, missing out, lost connections, restless, the cost of living. The distance between us. H is for hawk, heroes, housekeeping, happy ever after.
Thank you, Anne. There's so much difference in all these poems. All the poems, that what struck me was the difference between them all the different subjects, the different things people were thinking about and noticing and talking about. And the next poet we're going to hear read is Katie Deutsch, who was the winner of the Under 18s competition. Hello, Katie, and welcome.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I'm going to be reading my poem, Silently Ignoring the World. It is late, scrolling through my phone, silently ignoring the world. At this time, I pretend nothing is wrong, everything is normal, everything is good. While the world is in shambles, I sit alone in my room. It is late, silently ignoring the world.
Hmm. Lovely.
Yeah, I thought that was typical of so many young people's experience of lockdown, was sitting in their rooms with only their mobile phones for company, instead of the vivid social life that most of them have. And yeah, it wasn't easy at all. Thank you very much, Katie. So it's Kathy Whitaker, please. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi. Bad Corona day. You want to sing your way to work, hang around the photocopier chatting. At lunchtime, you want to go to Treacle's, order quiche and coleslaw. Say hi to the waitresses who know you. You want to buy wine and chocolate, take it round to your friends. You want to have a barbecue. You want to browse a shopping centre, buy a new shirt or a scarf. You want to pick up a book from Smith's, read the first paragraph, put it back on the shelf, find another one. You want to ring your brother, ask him to stay over, wander the streets together, read menus, choose, have a few drinks first in a pub. You want to take a long drive to see your daughter. You want to hug her and the children, take them out for treats, shopping, beach days, picnics. You want to see your friends in a coffee shop, drink iced tea, not worry about masks and how long the virus hangs around. You want to go to writing workshops, gather inspiration, meet new people, go for long weekends, on retreats. Now it's Zoom and nothing else. And it's grief that hits you in the morning when you have a bad day.
Hmm. Mhm.
I'm hearing lots of mms, and I think that a lot of these poems are hitting the spot that of our shared experience of what it's been like for the past year. And now we have Philip Burton, please. Philip, are you there?
I dedicate this poem to Camilla Reeve, my publisher at Pale World Press. Hard-boiled COVID Street. Newlywed, we plagued the council. They coughed up a house made of highly fragrant paint, a room with rough enamel bath, boiler in the scullery, a separate room for anthracite, licorice flooring. We were into each other, a ménage à trois. She, the house, the adolescent me. Being innocent as two cherries, wild as weeds, young as the walls and street, we danced on the ceiling, went mad with stucco, rainbow kitsch, footprints in concrete, garden mirrors, gnomes, wind chimes, and a mind-bending fence a child could have painted and did. COVID-19 zonked us, martyred our best bits, put the old oven lid on the left field we'd planted. The jazzy pagoda crackled and stained the communal bonfire. Carnival was clammed shut in its own Pentonville. Our dwelling surrendered to the street. Became humdrum, vanilla, cross-referenced to a week of Sundays, lawn yawning at the mower, nothing curtains, elephantine TV, paint scheme whites with a ghost of tangerine. Our house, one of a bag of hard-boiled sweets stuck together. Our bedroom, we've become wedded to it. We've sugared our fudge and lie in it, toffee-nosed. We're waiters lying waiting for lockdown to end. We moan down the figures, connect each new spike with social kiss dancing neighbors who who kick the new norm to the end of the road where no mower mows.
Hmm.
Thank you very much for that, Philip. And Dick Smith. Dick, are you there?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Hearing them. No bull nor finch there. Soft fruit of sound invites you not to hear, not of the ground, not for last wide shore of river to the sea, not for sky-flayed moor, thumb-podded pea pillowed in leaves. No, small hinge cry for oil, domestic love not call, pearled, private, tell.
Lovely.
I perhaps ought to say, if anybody doesn't know what a bullfinch sounds like, that was possibly a little abstruse, but I hope you got something of music from it anyway.
Yes, it was fun.
Which is a lovely link, because the next poem is, of course, is Learning Wimbrel, which is by Martin Halsall, which was the winner of the over 18 competition. Martin, you're with us.
Yes, Martin Halsall. A Wimbrel, I'd perhaps just explain, is a small version of a curlew, very similar in appearance. Learning Wimbrel. He watched the birds by sound after his blindness, calling to mind from hearing small cassettes, species from song, each voice, as experts phrased it. He played tapes in the car as fingering notes. Historian, he never saw their geography. Light was just dawn or dark, denying detail. Lock on his eyes made prison, but also flight as birds came, bringing in their ancient music, stories he'd once squint manuscripts to decode. Tapes brought him gifts of fluency and recognition. House martins, turr, turr, or beer, beer, alarms as harvested sighs there. Adobe nesters. Locked down by plague, he'd conjure miles they travelled, tartan migration, by flung songs that he'd heard, sea eagles, crick, rick, poise, G, G in saw. His wife would check descriptions in her bird book. Cleap, cleap in oyster catchers black and white. Lowlanders, pluit from an avocet. Evening in islands, listening from memory, her hand guided his elbow. His folding cane probed track for boulder. He caught the Lochans music, hearing uid, 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 as Nordic phrasing of Wimbrel, mottled plumage like the bird that flowed among the words she read to him.
Thank you, Martin. That was lovely. Now, another Martin. Martin, is it Reza or Riza?
Reza is correct, yeah.
Reza. So
I'm going to read from page 44, Wildwood. This is as close as the city gets to wild. Below the thunder of arterials, a blackbird thrills, magpies clatter and complain, and a dog pauses to listen, free from walls and enclosed air, stale with traffic and fags. Limestone spurs and gorges, grey-brown water, stink of wild garlic, sheet white frothing down the valley, and oaks, sentient oaks, standing their ground through season and storm, their channeled bark, cicatrice worn as skin, roots ravelling away into the dark, touching underground colonies, worm paths, minerals and fungi, converting sunlight for the strong branches to cage the day moon's face, pushing slowly skywards. They stand, every ring a ripple out from the first shoot, while our time span barely girths an inch.
Thank you, Martin. And now it's me. I resisted the temptation as the editor to put myself into the anthology. So this is, which I didn't think would be fair. So this is Full Moon in April, subtitled Reading Sylvia Plath in Quarantine. And there are a few little quotes from Sylvia Plath. Spring's been cancelled this year. No one I love can come here. Fear is blossoming at the bottom of the garden. When I open my mouth, I can taste the sky. It's like raw metal and clear, ridiculously clear. No cars on the motorway. The planes are parked in neat rows on their stands. No day is safe from news. I've stopped listening. The virus is an earworm that blocks positive thought. Even the light seems suspicious. I've taken its temperature. All night I've been flickering off, on, off, on. There's no bearing it. The 3 a.m. eye that opens and looks at you. If the moon smiled, it would be easier. But instead, the moon, pink, enormous, floats in isolation, keeping its distance. Thank you.
Lovely.
Now it's Marion Leaper, please.
Hi, I'm Marion, and my poem is What to Wear in Lockdown. Last night, I dreamt I went out into the street wearing a long fur coat. People pointed, shouted from doorways, windows. They didn't know that I was swaddled in 100 years of stories to keep me safe from danger. They called out, a disgrace, an ugly woman wearing the skins of beautiful animals. I said, it was 100 years ago. My father wore rough fur to line his coat. That Peking winter, when foreigners were locked down in their compounds, sharing their meager rice in bamboo rooms and skating to keep warm. They remonstrated. Unprotected? In the street without a mask, you'll catch a death. I pulled the coat's round neck closer to mine and said, you do not know how that long forgotten lining became a peace offering between my sister and my mother in their 10 years war about clothes. How my sister wrapped it round her so the folds rippled across her flanks and her eyes narrowed like a cat's. Still they pointed. The coat waved behind me, a royal banner or a badge of shame. I said, you've never seen how those tawny markings, charcoal and umber, particular as lifelines, spread over her bed that winter. She spent alone, no money, in a stone-cold cottage with a too small fire. How, enveloped in a solitude of fur, she read survival from those hieroglyphs. Then I woke, remembering that the coat had long ago gone to moth and the streets were empty.
Thank you, Marion. And now, Rukshitha, it's your turn.
Hi,
Hello.
My name's Rakshitha, and the title of my poem is Hidden. Unbreathable, untouchable, that's who we are. We steal your identity, hoard oxygen. But just like you, we're created in different sizes, a multitude of colours and shapes. Some of us are thrown away, some kept by their owners. Our mission in year 2020 is to be everywhere on everyone. But aside from that, we save lives, stop the COVID.
Thank you very much, Rakshitha. And now it's Anne Banks. Anne.
Hello, Anne Banks. One walk a day. Out on Cundrick Scar, curlew's flute, skylarks warble over silent roads. Bright darts of sapphire, kingfishers shimmer upstream, spell of reflection. Wood anemones raise white faces to the sun in golden limbo. Garlic wild in the woods, wind-blown beech splinters and falls, sirens on fellside. Hawthorn leaves, new green, tremble in the frosted breeze. In town, nothing stirs. Woodpecker yaffles, wagtail, warbler, wren take flight. Plains grounded, skies clear. Across grey stone walls, purple aubrietia bellies, neighbours wave and chat. Blossom by the Kent, gaudy branches reach towards a padlocked playground. We keep our distance, shaken to see so many die. Bluebells bow their heads.
Thank you very much, Anne. And now Rich David.
Hello, Rich David, Ouzel, after Edward Thomas. I remember Ouzel that afternoon, sitting by the river, watching the slow flow of the water downstream. It was May, and a passing train thundered past, every carriage empty. Someone near coughed, and we turned our heads towards sunlit sky. And for that second, we could hear the faint murmur of song as a murder of crows flew higher and the whole world held its breath.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rich. This was a common theme between a lot of the poems that came in, was the fact that within the silence, you could actually hear the bird song, you could hear everything, and how lovely it was to be in touch with wildlife and the natural world again. Now, it's Pauline Yarwood.
This is the first lockdown poem. It's called Secession. Frauds, deceivers, you do not console. Poetry's done for. It's too hard now. Yesterday I closed my eyes and saw I was standing barefoot in darkness, facing the cavernous black opening of a mountain tunnel. I strained to pick up the sound of a train, which would surely destroy me in seconds, but no train came. What came was the thunderous cawing and screaming of dark shapes that sped towards me, round me, over me, screeching, back off, you stand alone. Hundreds of them flying from black space into black space, hungry, angry. They looked like ravens, crows, rooks, but I knew they were words.
Thank you, Pauline. Now, Mike Smith, who is masquerading on Zoom as BHD and me, if you want to find him.
Curtain call. I'm not in the next scene. I'm not on stage, but lingering in the wings, where I can see the ropes and wires behind the back scene flats. The script has dropped me from this page to the last. Blame the director for my moves and the writer. I took my cues from him. I neither nod nor walk on till the end, when we take hands to make our curtain call and see the audience clap and rave or hear them shuffle silent from the hall. Too late now for rewrites, edits, for tweaking costumes, devising bits of business, new marks on which to stand, adjusting lines of sight, giving notes to younger members of the cast, controlling prima donnas, divas at the last. Some lighting engineer beyond the gods to win a bet he made with someone from the pit has swung a spotlight side to side and swept the hero from his mark, just for a lark. Outside, the fans are gathering at a door. I'll shoulder through unseen. No one will call my name. That's a relief, considering the character I've been.
Thank you, Mike. And now we have Nick Grant. Nick.
Hello, everyone. So this is a poem called Apollo and addressed to Apollo, god of the sun, the arts and medicine. This is how you insulate from fear, rattling the little bottle into life each morning as a rite, the right amount of water in the same small colored glass and the ripe food before, the safety cap pressed and twisted. The unsaid incantation, let this flow about me inside, this synthesis of health. May the white coats flap about their work precisely. Diplomas from somewhere well reputed, plastered on every wall, measuring out goodness for me, confidently, paternally. As far as I know, this is witchcraft, trusting in someone else's artistry because it has been told of so emphatically and practiced for so long. A tightly folded paper tucked into every box gives it truth. I'm not brave enough to disbelieve. Give me the sun instead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. And now it's time for Mehak. Mehak.
Hello everybody, I'm Mehak, and my poem goes as follows. Saviors burning the midnight oil. Life is tattered and covered with grim. Many face terrible difficulties all the time. Shortages of food supplies and struggled for basic amenities. Subhash Mandik, a posted man at Solid Waste Management, after supervising garbage vehicles day and night, became a patient of corona, refused by all hospitals. While his condition deteriorated and being depressed, citing unavailability of beds, and died after 2 days of being admitted. We should know he's our coronavirus warrior. Managing funerals of loved ones who died of corona became a struggling task. Jitendra Singh Shunti took it upon himself to perform the last rites of people, conducted 45 incinerations, and has been a savior for the whole nation. During COVID in Mumbai, Vijay Guide, a security guard, burned the midnight oil to make up the courage and do his job. He wrote his experience to a trip to a hospital, which pleaded citizens to stay at home. At the last moment of his life, fighting with his wife to go to his duty, but later he died. What about the backbone of Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation? Ratna Prabha Dabholkar, being a patient of diabetes and blood pressure, always moved on and never lost her spirit to serve the country. Dr. Trupati Kaddar was bombarded with stones by a mob in Indore. They will unceasingly move on to serve the nation and perform their duties in these times. Another female, Dr. Zakia Syed, who got injured, keeps in fighting and always has in hope to win in such a situation. Battling hunger and fatigue, a laborer father with his 7-year-old son, they trekked hundreds of kilometers in a heat, barefooted, driven by the prospect of making ways to their boats. They were not alone. Some had young children and pregnant women, begging for food, screaming and roaring. Physically challenged women at the Chennai Cooperation Center worked through day and night to prepare masks from reusable fabric, but the sanitary health workers contributing to the nation. Asha workers were beaten to death for small protests. Going to conduct the door-to-door service, they knocked on a family's door who refused to cooperate. A family so mad that they blew their top, beating the Asha workers with sticks. I feel proud of all these coronavirus warriors. They struggled for the country's betterment and always had an optimism to help. So why not help them by staying at home? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mehak. That was a really interesting, lovely poem. Now it's Deborah's turn. Deborah Maccabee.
Violet Carpenter B, Spring 2020. A big black bee against my window pane crackles with rage, struggling in vain in wild, frustrated agony to pass the inexplicable barrier of glass. The window's stuck, but I open wide the big glass patio door and guide my winter tenant to the spring outside. She circles once, then seems to hesitate, then sallies forth to feed and pollinate, and I feel honored to have set her free, essential worker for humanity. When hierarchy breaks down in the hive, only the wild bee keeps the world alive. Carpenter bee brought to these northern climes by a warming planet in perilous times. Violet carpenter bee, whose wings change hue in sunlight to a dark translucent blue. Wildflowers unfold for her their nectar treasure. All nature wakes to labor that is pleasure. Birds build their nests in budding trees and sing, with gold dust glistening on leg and wing. From flower to flower my bee goes visiting, oblivious to social distancing. But while I set my bee at large to roam, mankind immobilized remains at home. A microbe holds humanity in thrall behind a baffling and invisible wall. Lockdown will end one day when they will find a vaccine or a cure. But can mankind defeat the pathogen within the mind and, breaking man-made walls and distancing, experience at last the human spring?
Thank you, Deborah. And now the last poet to read in this half is Susan Cartwright-Smith. Susan.
Emerging. I am 2 meters from the only other person who is with me on our walk, which feels rebellious or somehow dangerous, as if we are now unsure if what we do, a simple act of walking, is allowed. But while we agonized and stood apart and stayed alone and masked and watched the clear blue skies and heard the bird song, life went on. And greenery has claimed the barren earth, and flying insects flit amongst the dancing stems, and in the water alien creatures metamorphose undisturbed by net or plastic tub. And everywhere is full of life and verdant in this lost words world, which I have found once more. And me and my walking partner, 2 meters behind me, find that life which finds a way continues undisturbed, welcoming back those who gently tread, emerging slowly, like a nymph, becoming other in a new world. Behind our masks, feeling somehow lost, but finding ourselves once more, we find the words to say, this world is beautiful. Thank you.